In the final exercise for chapter 3, this is going to be the bonus exercise. We're going to create a ramp 2 profile. And this portion of the manual really doesn't give much information on how to create it. We're allowing you to do this however you feel most comfortable with the methods that we've shown so far during this class. The only items that they really kind of give you here are that we're going to name the profile ramp 2 proposed. It's going to be a MoDOT baseline proposed feature definition, and we're given a table similar to what we've seen throughout this chapter that shows the VPIs, what stations they're at, elevations or slopes, and then curve lengths in between. So there's several different ways you can do this. We'll do it a couple different ways to show you how. So we're going to be in that same file that we were in before, that civil geometry file. So go ahead and open up the civil geometry file underneath your data 3. Okay, and ramp 2 is located in the upper left portion right across from 54. So here's your ramp 2, and we're going to open up that ramp 2 into view 8. So make sure that you can see a view 8, which I have over here. We haven't talked a lot about setting up views, but if you have view 1 and view 8 open and you wish to tile them inside of ORD, you can go to Open Roads Modeling, go to the View option across the top here, and there is a tile method. So you can click on tile, and that will tile these two together. Okay. Let's go back to the geometry tab. That way we can get to our vertical tools pretty easy. We're going to come down here in the view 1, and we're going to open up ramp 2 profile model over here in window 8. So we're just going to select that, get the heads up display, hit the open profile model tool, and we're going to left click inside of window 8. So you should be able to see the beginning and the end of where ramp 2 is, and this is what the existing ground looks like. Okay, if you don't see existing ground here, you just have to make sure that your existing ground is set as active. So we're going to come out here and make sure that you select the existing ground and that the second tool is the set active. As long as you do that, then you'll have your existing ground. Okay, so let's go out here and draw our profile then. So our first one is going to be at 0 plus 0, 0. And then we're going to have a station in there that we're given of 0, 0 plus an elevation of 779.58. Okay, so let's go back in here. We're going to just do this the first time with the complex geometry tool. We're just going to do a complex by PI. And we're going to use the method of just a rough draft and then go back and modify it later. Okay. So to do that, the very first thing here is we're going to look at the curve parameters, curve length, and all of that. I always like to put some kind of curve length in here again. So I'm just going to put 100 in here and enter that in. Okay, feature definition. We're going to do the alignment and then MoDOT baseline proposed. And we're calling this ramp 2 proposed. And enter that in. Okay, so what we're going to do first off is we're going to be in the profile model. So if it asks you to pick the profile view, just go ahead and left click in the profile view. If it doesn't, then it's going to ask you for entering the first PI. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to come down here and I'm just going to move to the edge of that right where the existing ground touches. Now I know that's going to be 0, 0 because that's the start of the alignment. So I'm just going to left click there. Now if we're doing the rough draft version, we've got 4 VPIs. So that's a start, a second VPI, a third, and an end. So I'm going to do that. So we've got our start, our second, our third, and then I'm going to snap to the end. Okay. Once I get that last one in there snapped in, I'm going to right click to end that out, and you can see that we now have that profile in there. Okay, and I'm going to modify this profile now to match what we have here. So that, like I said before, the station is 0 plus 0, 0. That should be where we're at, but we'll find out. And elevation of 779.58. So 0, 0 is right. 779.58, that we accomplished by snapping to the beginning point. So that one is correct. So we're good there. And now we have a VPI2, which is at 3 plus 70. So the first thing I'm going to do with this modification is I'm going to change the stationing. Okay, I know we're good on the last one, snap to the end of the alignment because we did that. But 3 plus 70 is our next one. So I'm going to go in here and take a look at this one. And I can see that I need to change that station. So I'm going to click on it and do a 3 plus 70 and enter that in. Now if you hover over it, it should say 3 plus 70. Okay, our next station is at 7 plus 95. 7 plus 95. So let's go in there, change our next one to 7 plus 95, and we'll enter that in. That'll move that station back. You can see that that has changed right there. Okay, now we have been given slopes and elevations. So I'm going to do the first slope first. So we're at negative 0.5 between 0 and 3 plus 70. We're at negative 0.5. Okay, so we actually went up with this and it needs to go down. So you can see that it's white here, so I can't make that change. So I have to get on the actual line there. And then I can key in that negative 0.5. And now it goes down, as you can see. Okay, our stationing should stay at 3 plus 70, which it does. So I'm going to right click out there, just left click in a blank area. I'm going to go ahead and select our profile again. So the next thing that we have there is we have a elevation that's been given to us of 803 for this 7 plus 95. So we've got 803. So here's 795, and we want to get on there and change that elevation to 803. And that gets us in there, and it gets our slope in here as to what it says also here in the manual, 5.95. Okay. So now we have our alignment laid out correctly because we have all of our stationing in there and the snapping to the end and the elevations that were given and the slope. Now we have to look at the curve length of 500 and 250. So 500 for that first one. If you zoom in on that first one, you can select the curve length and do 500 and enter that in. Now you can see that's changed to 500. And then our second curve, we're going to change that to 250 and enter that. Okay. If you want to double check everything is correct, you can left click on it and you can see you got the negative 0.5. You've got an elevation here of 803 that we were given. Station 3 plus 70, station 7 plus 95, and then a snap to the end. Okay, that's method one of the rough draft. If you wanted to do the rough draft version. The other version that we take a look at would be using the civil Accudraw. Okay. Now I'm going to use civil Accudraw and place it in like we did with exercise number 2 for ramp 4. So you could do something similar with civil Accudraw like we just did with the complex by VPI, where you could give it all this information, have one chain created. But we're going to do this one with the lines and the curves. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this out. And we're going to do it again, but this time we're going to use Civil Accudraw. I'll go ahead and pull Civil Accudraw out on the screen. With Civil Accudraw right now, you're going to want to make sure that you can see the beginning and the end, where you don't have to do a lot of zooming around. So we're going to have something like that. Okay. With Civil Accudraw, we're going to go ahead and set it as active and turn it on. And the first thing that we're given in there is our slope. So I'm going to go ahead and choose slope. Okay, if we take a look at our manual out here, we're going to start at 0, 779.58, and then we have a slope. Well, you could key that in, but we know from doing it just now that snapping to the beginning of the alignment gives you that same station and elevation. So we'll do that, and then we'll do the slope. And then we're going to 3 plus 70. Okay, so for that one, we're going to do a line. Okay, our line, we're going to start it at the very beginning. So we're just going to come down to the existing ground, left click to snap at that location. And then it's asking us a station and slope. So our station is 3 plus 70. We'll enter that in, move the mouse around. That locks it in at that station. And then we have a negative 0.5% slope. So we key that in, move the mouse around, and you can see what it's giving you here, 370 foot at that slope. So we will left click to accept it. Okay, the next line that we're going to draw in here, we'll take a look at that one. That one's going to 7 plus 95, and we can do an elevation of 803. 7 plus 95 and 803. So we're going to switch it to the Z up here in Civil Accudraw. We're going to come down here and snap to the end of the line that we just drew. And our station is at 7 plus 95, and we'll enter that in. And that should lock you in there, and it does. And our elevation is 803. We'll enter that in, move the mouse, and it should move that to that elevation. Okay, now once we have those two pieces of information input, and then we can left click to accept it, and it will place it there. Now our last one is just a snap to the end, so we're going to go in and select the end of that line, so we'll get the AccuSnap that location, and we're going to come down here to the very end and AccuSnap to the existing ground. So now we have our line work in there. Now we just need to go back and put the arcs in. I'm going to go ahead and turn off Civil Accudraw. Not going to be using it here, so I'll turn that off. And we'll go up into the curves. We'll do profile curve between elements and parabola between elements. Okay, in that dialog, we're given curve parameters, lengths, trim and extend, and a name. So what we're going to do is we're going to look and see, again, in the manual, we've got a VPI2 is 500 foot curve length. So here's the length. We'll key that in at 500 and enter. And then we're going to come out here and it says locate the first profile element. So here's the line. We'll left click it. Second profile element here, left click that. Make sure you're in the correct quadrant to place that. You want it to be above it. And when we get it where you like it, just left click to accept that. And then we'll trim and extend both. If it doesn't say both here, use your down arrow on your keyboard to get it to say both. And then just left click to accept it. Okay, taking a look, the second curve in there is 250. So we're going to use the same tool. We're just going to change this to 250. Enter that in to lock it. Our trim and extend to set it both. And on this one, we're going to have the first element be this line. So we'll left click it. second element be the one at the end. We'll left click it, and we'll make sure we're on the proper side, which is down. And we'll go ahead and left click to place it there, and then one more left click to trim it. Okay. Then the last thing that we need to do is go back up into our complex geometry tools up here at the top, and we're going to do the profile complex by elements. So we have elements out there we want to put together. This is the tool that we use to do that. Come down in the dialog box. I'm just going to change that one to automatic. Our feature definition, we're going to do the down arrow on that, and we're going to get the alignment. We'll do mo.baseline proposed. There we go, took that time. And we'll call it ramp to proposed. And enter that in. Then we're going to come out on the screen and we're going to go ahead to the left end of the alignment that we've created and left click. It should highlight the whole entire profile. Then we're just going to left click in a blank area. Now if you hit F4, you should see that it is all one piece. When you select on it, you should be able to take a look at the 3 plus 70, 7 plus 95, and looks like everything worked out properly. Okay. We're going to double check all that. Oh, I see something right off the bat there, 795.06. So we need that to be 7 plus 95. That had somehow gotten changed, but now that we noticed that, we can go make that change. Pretty easy, and now you can see that the slope there matches what we have in the manual. Everything matches, so always double check just in case making some of these other modifications changes something. Then the last thing that it has you do in this example or exercise is to take a look at the report. So if you hover over that new profile we just created and take a look at the report option, it'll go ahead and pull up a report for your vertical alignment, and you can go out and look at that. Okay, so your starts at 0, you got a 3 plus 70 or 370 foot. You can see that this one doesn't have the stationing really written the way I like it. So if you notice that, you can go to Tools, Format Options, and see how it's taking care of the stations. Okay. So we'll change the station there. Once we close out, it will modify it. I think in the old SS4 tools, when you made that change in that dialog, they automatically showed up. But in this version, you have to fix those or change those and then go out and close it, and then when you close it, it will apply it. Alright, so that's the end of the exercise for the bonus exercise.